The GallowgateShots podcast is sponsored by Tyre Spot, the North East's leading tyre supplier with branches across the region. Tyre Spot don't just do tyres, they cover everything from servicing to wheel alignment. They can handle every aspect of your car's maintenance. For more information, visit tyrespot.co.uk. Enjoy the episode.
Hi everybody, welcome back to the GallowgateShots YouTube and podcast channel. We are back with another match preview. The international break is finally over and we can now return to proper football. Although our lads didn't do too badly over the international break, but we all know what really matters. And it is the upcoming game this Sunday. I'm Scott, I'm your host for this one. And this week I'm joined by Daryl, Joe and Nichol. And boys, we're going to jump straight into this one because I've been waiting for Premier League football for over 2 weeks now. Oh, nearly 2 weeks. I just want to get into this game because I'm looking forward to it. It is Wolves away. It's on Sunday, the 15th of September. It's a 4:30 kickoff from the Molyneux Stadium. And for all of you who didn't have enough loyalty points to go down there, it is live on Sky. Wolves aren't doing the best. They're not the best of starts this season. 18th in the league on 1 point, 1 draw and 2 defeats alone. To put a massive caveat on that, they have played Chelsea and Arsenal. So they're the 2 defeats. Maybe it's horses for courses or par for the course, as you would say, for what they've done. 3 goals scored, 9 conceded, and I think most of them came in the Chelsea game. Was it 6-2 or something, I remember rightly? So they're on a minus 6 goal difference. So, take that with a pinch of salt, and it is early in the season. Before we get started with everything, I've got a few commentator stats, as always. Wolves have lost just 1 of their 9 Premier League home games against Newcastle. Those 7 of these have ended in draws. So they've only actually won 1 of them. Newcastle have won 3 of their last 5 Premier League games against Wolves with 2 draws. More they've had in their first 13 such meetings, which was 2 wins, 9 draws, and 9 draws and 2 defeats. 61% of Premier League meetings between Newcastle and Wolves have finished as a draw. That's 11 out of 18. That's the highest percentage of any fixture that have been played at least 15 times in the Premier League. Hold off on your predictions. I think I've said this every week now, but hold off on your predictions. We're not all going to predict draws. Maybe we will. Wait till the end. Both teams have scored in all 9 Premier League meetings between Wolves and Newcastle at the Molyneux. The most played specific fixture in the competition to never see a clean sheet. And finally, for me, before I hand it over to somebody else, Wolves have won just 1 of the last 13 Premier League games. That's 9 defeats and 3 draws. And they are winless in their last 6. 1 draw and lost 5. At home, they've lost 5 of their last 6 league games with only 1 win. And more in their previous 19 at the Molyneux, where they had 11 wins, 4 draws, and 4 defeats. So they're not doing too bad. They're not doing too well at home. But Joe, you've been taking a look at the team and their performances. How have they been doing? Shine a bit of a light on the old Wolverhampton Wanderers to give them their birth name.
Do I have to? Because it's not a really good light, to be honest with you. They've had a pretty shoddy start, mate. As you say, they've shipped 9 goals in their first 3 Premier League games, 6 to Chelsea. I watched that game and they're just looking so disorganized. It's funny with Wolves because they're in a massive transition period. They've brought in quite a few players, like keeper Sam Johnston from Palace for about 10 million. I think he only started the last game. So I think they started with Jose Sarr in. And so he's obviously a new addition to the defence. You've got that big centre forward Larson as well, who's on loan from Celta Vigo. He's started pretty well actually. He got a goal against I think it was Chelsea. Chelsea or Forest, sorry, I can't remember. But he's off the mark and he's looking really lively. He's a big old-fashioned centre forward, replacing basically Raul Jimenez in that number 9 territory. And on top of that, you've got midfielder Andre as well, who's come in. He's primarily, I think, a bit more of a defensive midfielder, but he seems to be quite a sprightly one who's able to, he's a bit like our Bruno, who's able to get out of situations quite easily, and he's a bit of deep line playmaker, I think. And then you've got Gomez as well, who's a winger. He started against Arsenal, I believe, but he was benched in the last game, so he's kind of been a bit fleeting in the minutes that he's had. But the point is that they've brought in quite a few players and they've been slowly bedding them in. They've lost Pedro Neto and Max Kilman, massive blow to them. But like I said, they've brought in a few players. What I'm worried about is that we've got this international break now that's coming to an end. And what I reckon is that you'll probably see these players, at least, one or two of them maybe start the game. And how that's going to change their dynamic and the way that they play, I'm not too sure. It's obviously difficult to say. They normally play with like a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-4-1-1. And they've been focusing with Larson up top. So it's really the traditional, get the ball out to the wingers, get the cross in. The midfielders seem to be quite good at pressing and breaking the play up. They did that quite a lot against Chelsea. That Bellegarde lad, he was quite good. They were both pressing. Two midfielders were pressing in, taking advantage of any bit of sloppy play, and then really quick on the transition. So I think that's something that we have to really be careful of, because we've seen Joe Linton be a little bit careless at times with his passing and his touches. It's just something that if we're a little bit sloppy in midfield, we could get punished. But yeah, I think they are dangerous, but they're so leaky at the back that you've got to imagine our wingers are going to have a hell of a time against them. Especially if they can, cut inside or get balls into Isak, it's not going to look good for them. So, yeah, got some threats going forward, but defensively they're leaky. So I'm feeling pretty good about going into this one, to be honest, more than previous fixtures.
And look how wrong we were with the last one. But yes,
I said we'd lose.
Nichol, mate, do you think this is a game where the game's going to be won or lost in the centre of the park? Do you think the midfield is going to have a big play in this one? Obviously, Wolves have got a fairly decent centre midfield trio. I think they play three in the middle usually. And depending on who starts for us, we'll see how we do as well, because obviously we'll come on that later. But looking at this game, I think that's where most of the action's going to be.
Yeah, you would think so. And I think, obviously, as you said, depending on who starts, for us, it's important that that's our sort of focal point for going forward as well. And it's the link between the defence and attack, obviously. If Tonali does start, which I'm not sure he will, then you would imagine it would be maybe Joe Linton and Bruno, and that would be a good trio for us. But I do have a feeling that Howe will go with Longstaff, Bruno and Joe Linton, to be honest. Because I actually think Longstaff played pretty well against Tottenham in the last game. And he seems to trust him as well. So I think that'll be the three we see. But yeah, definitely a key battle area. Like as Joe said, I do think that Wolves have got some good players, especially in midfield. I just think they've had a bit of a difficult start to the season. And I think if you look at the next four fixtures they've actually got, it's us, Brighton, Villa and Liverpool. So they've got a really tough start.
Like us last season.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think they'll be all right. I quite like Gary O'Neill. I think he's a good manager. So I think they'll probably finish mid-table again. But yeah, I would say midfield is going to be a key battle area, definitely.
Yeah, they're a funny one, Wolves, Daryl.
Yeah.
You'd expect it. I mean, the team that they've had, and I'm saying had because the last two seasons, I say they've lost some pretty big names. And I don't know if they've really replaced them with an equally big name or an equally big performer. So a team where, they were hitting mid-table, pushing for top six, they've kind of dropped back a little bit because of the players they've lost. And you'd hope that this season is the one where they really push on to get a bit higher up that table. But like I say, chasm to the fire straight away in the first 6-7 games of the season. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that they have replaced the players that they've lost, but they've replaced them with, I mean, certainly in the more recent editions, it's entities that we don't really know a lot of. For those of us who are focused more on the English game and Premier League experience, they haven't really, we don't really know much about the players that they brought in. So we only have those initial games to go off and make judgments on. To go back to what Joe was saying about the transition and how they use that as their key focal point, we have to then look and see what Chelsea did to them, because Chelsea managed that so well, and they exhibited a quality that I think we have this season, in terms that we can just turn over possession quickly, and within a pass or two or three max, we can be away and we can break on teams with our pace. So it'll be interesting to see how that battle works out. And I think that'll be the key to getting something out of this game.
And you'd like to think, Joe, with what Daryl just said there, that's probably a bigger kind of argument for Tonali to start over Longstaff, because Tonali is that player who's going to get the ball and be able to play that pass. Where, no disrespect to Sean Longstaff, he works his arse off for it, and he gets what he does right, but you don't class him as a ball-playing midfielder, do you, Sean Longstaff?
No. Tonali reminds me a lot more of Willock than anything else. The way that he progresses up the pitch, he's not afraid to take on players, but he's got that keen eye for a pass as well, and he just works really well with the wingers and interlinking. So he's going to be needed for this game. And whilst I am completely on the fence. I know Nichol was saying he doesn't think that Tonali will start. I'm a little bit more on the fence. He did start 2 games for Italy, and he played really well for them. So you'd think that he's more in contention, especially now that he's looking match sharp, and he seems to be there, and he seems to be proving himself. Whether he's proven himself to Eddie Howe is a completely different kettle of fish, because we all know how Eddie Howe is very specific about the kind of player that he wants to be in a starting 11. But he would be fantastic for that. It would be, because when you think about it, if you get the ball to him and then say like a Jacob Murphy or whoever it might be on the right side, whether it's Harvey Barnes or Gordon, is able to just run in through. I mean, their defense, their centre backs are really struggling at the minute. They're struggling to win defensive headers. Their fullbacks just don't seem to be able to keep up when wingers are like running in behind. It just seems like a perfect game. But if we're on form, if we're absolutely on the money as we can be, then I think we've got a really good chance, because that's where we thrive. So, I think we just need, if we're on the ball and if we're ready for it, then I think we can absolutely kill them off. And Tonali would be a fantastic addition to that if he starts.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Nichol, that's been the issue. We haven't really been on the ball, and we haven't really been ready for the games up to now. But there's been 2 weeks on the training ground for most of the players. Obviously, the players have been a way of getting minutes in the legs. Any kinks in the chain that Eddie Howe's seen in the last 3 games, he's hopefully been able to smooth out and get these lads playing the way they were a season and a half ago, maybe, as you would say. Are you confident that the performances are going to eventually come, and this could be one of the games where we see that?
Yeah. Well, we live in hope, don't we? I think the key thing about this season so far is we haven't lost, and you can say that's a sign of a good team. But I think they've probably just done enough to win the games that they have. You look at the Tottenham game, and they defended really well, and then they took the 2 chances when they came. So you'd have to give them credit for that. But obviously, the performance haven't been sort of what the standard that they've set. Not even what we expect, just the standard that the team have set. So definitely you'd start to hope that he's had a couple of weeks there with the players who have not gone away on international duty, as you said, to sort out the issues that they've been having. And I think a lot of it, which we've already said about the midfield, is keeping the ball. I think in the last game we were just giving the ball away like so easily, even not just the central midfielders, but the wingers that came on as well. I think back to Jacob Murphy, he gave it away 3 out of 4 times that he came on. He got an assist, granted, and he did well for that, but he was just giving the ball away, and we saw Joe Linton get caught at Bournemouth away for that as well. So I think if we keep the ball and get the ball to the wingers as quick as we can, like Chelsea did, you saw Madueke got a hat-trick there. I think we could see Anthony Gordon do something similar if we get the ball to him quick enough. And it would be great to see Isak get off the mark in the league as well, because he's just scored a couple for Sweden. So if we can get him going in the league as well for us.
Yeah, although he did get one at Spurs. Don't forget that. It was a tap-in, but it counts. It counts. Sweaty goals count all the time. Daryl, I want to touch on one thing. Obviously, people are saying in this, to kind of going back in the Tonali argument about whether he should start because he's played 2 games for the international duty. If you use that mentality, we can't start Isak, we can't start Gordon, we can't start Bruno. Like, you cannot just not start players because they've played 2 games for their international. You've got to start these players because they're your key players. They're the players you've spent your money on. They've got to start. Like, if they're fit and ready, you cannot not drop them, right?
Yeah, that's entirely true. And the thing with the Tonali thing as well is that we know he's just lacking the sharpness because he's been fortunate enough with his ban that he's been able to continually train throughout the duration of said ban. So he does have that advantage, so that where he should be physically fit, it's just that sharpness. And I think for anybody who hasn't seen it, if you go and try and find his assist from the first game of the two that he's played for Italy,
I don't think anybody watching this hasn't seen that assist, Daryl. It's been on every social media account.
If you haven't,
the Newcastle social media account have tweeted it about 6 times as well. So if you haven't seen it, where have you been?
Well, if you exactly come out from under your rock and get it watched, because it was just a piece to resistance. And I think, those 2 games are really, really, really good for Tonali's, his energy and his sharpness, as we say. And again, that's the likes of Tino, Pope, and Gordon, who've been away with England. I think there's one thing that we've all said about Anthony Gordon, even in the run up to the international break, was just that he just doesn't seem right, whether or not he's just a little bit fatigued or tired, because he's been playing non-stop football for about 2 years now without a consistently long break, because he's been called into duty and whatnot. So again, he's had 2 games for England, so it'll all depend on how he is assessed when he comes back to the squad this week for training. I think the same will go for all the other lads. I think Miggy and Bruno played last night as we record, so they'll not be back until probably Friday at the earliest. So it'll be a case of how they've recovered. And I think one thing that we know is our recovery is certainly, when we've been playing Champions League football last season, the recovery periods have been so short that it's really damaged us. So hopefully, we've played less games this season. I mean, we're having in the first initial period, but it's going to give them a bit more. There's going to be a bit more downtime between games going forward before the next international break again.
Yeah, it'll be interesting about rotations. Obviously, I've mentioned before about you kind of just drop players because they played 2 games, but there's players that are, you would say, Joe, chomping at the bit to get starts. And one name that springs to mind, who's been a little bit in the press this week, is Kieran Trippier, who, he's retired from international football, so he hasn't been away. But Eddie Howe's had 2 weeks with him, and we all know Eddie Howe likes to work with the players that he's had on the training field. Although it's been widely reported that now, Tino is the starting right back, as it will. You'd expect maybe that Trippier could maybe feature for this game and get a start, just because Tino's been away.
See, the thing that makes me think that Trippier could be get some more game time is the fact that Lewis Hall on the other side isn't cemented in there. Now you're thinking, well, hang on, we're talking about Tino here, but realistically, when you think about it, if you're going to use the argument that Tino's going to be our starting fullback, let's keep him in, let's bet him in and just get him the run of games. You got to use the same argument for Lewis Hall. I know that Lewis Hall hasn't been quite on the mark as much as Tino, but Tino hasn't exactly set the world alight. He's been good, solid, but he's not set the world alight. So it's not, the point I'm trying to make is it's not against Howe's nature to chop and change these fullbacks, at least for now, whilst he's not completely convinced. So there is an absolute chance that Trippier starts, and it goes back to what I said about getting the balls in the box for this game. I really think that if we play that kind of game and maybe allow Gordon and Trippier to build up more of a relationship on the right-hand side, it could be just what we need. And don't forget that Fabian Schär's going to be back as well. So him plus Trippier being in that defence really shows it up. I know that Kraft has done a really good job. Kelly did well at left back as well. But I think having those 2 senior figureheads back in the side might be just what we need for the moment. I said it in the last preview, it's just about getting those senior guys in, and it might just be the case of even psychologically more than anything else. But Trippier's looked good when he's come on. He's looked really sharp, both attacking and defending. He's looked kind of a bit more back to his usual self. So I would like to see him start, I think. I do like Tino, but I think that Trippier deserves a run in the side to, see what he can do. And like I say, hopefully he can help with whoever's on that right-hand side as well to deliver some good balls in the box.
Yeah, and Daryl, I think, we've got a few players who are still out, obviously long-term. We're not going to touch on them, but I think one player that maybe is still a bit up in the air, we don't quite know. And again, like I say, pretty much every week we do record this before Eddie Howe's press conference on a Friday. You're probably watching this before Eddie Howe's press conference on a Friday. Joe Willock and the importance that he could play in this game if he's fit. You know, given the fact that Bruno's been away, given the fact that Tonali has been away, and I know I said that's not an excuse to drop players, but if we need to, and he's fit, we do have a Joe Willock who can get the ball and he can play that pass. We've seen, you know, assists he's done for Isak and other players in the past, and then also he can also pick up the ball up and drive it forward and just run through midfielders like they're not even there. So, you know, you'd hope he's fit. We don't know. We're waiting on a second scan. Apparently, it's happening. It probably happened last week. We don't know what's happened, but you know, he's a player that could really turn this game on its head if needed and if can be called upon.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, we know how good Joe Willock is in terms of what he can do when he's on the ball and how he can progress the team up the pitch. And the one very sad thing that we saw with the game at Forest when he got injured was the fact that the midfield three was Willock, Tonali and Bruno. And the running in the legs of Tonali and Willock and the link-up that they could have had together if that game had been played out in full with them both in there. I mean, we probably wouldn't have found ourselves in the position we ended up in that game, and we certainly probably wouldn't have gone to penalties because the legs and the running in both of those and the way they can just have the midfield three be more dynamic and they can swap sides, they can get up and down the pitch and support Bruno and they can get in and join in attacks. And in Tonali's case, he was put through at one point to potentially make it 2-0. And obviously Joe Willock did a hell of a run to get involved to get his goal in that game after just 18 seconds. You know, it would be really positive to see him at least in the squad on Sunday. And, you know, you mentioned, you know, we do this before Eddie Howe and, you know, we'll come on to the other one who's potentially going to come back. But we just need that information. We just need to know if he's going to be there.
We do. Nichol, when it comes to the wings, obviously we've got Anthony Gordon. He's a player that you probably cannot drop. But the other side, and I'm saying the other side because I don't know if it's going to be the left or the right, because it can be either one. Again, there's a bit of a selection dilemma. Obviously, you would like to think it's the man just standing behind Daryl on the little calendar there, Harvey Barnes. I only know that because I turned mine over and I've seen Harvey Barnes when I got back from my holidays.
I haven't turned mine over yet.
Oh, there you go. Spoiler alert, it's Harvey Barnes. If you haven't turned your calendar over yet, it's Harvey Barnes. I mean, it is what, the 11th of August, September?
Sorry.
I've not turned mine over yet.
Yeah. Hey, what is that? It's bad luck.
Hang on.
Anyway, where's he gone? Where's he going?
Why has he gone to?
I'm seeing who's on my calendar, man.
Same calendar.
Where are we at? Hang on. I haven't seen us since June. You've got Keegan in July, right? You've got Nobby in August.
That's an old one, that.
What calendar is that?
It's like a
Legends calendar.
Philippe Albert. What a bloke, man.
Anyway,
sorry for that mild.
Yes.
Brief interlude.
What I was getting to there was, who do you pick for the other side, Anthony Gordon?
It's definitely Harvey Barnes for me. It definitely is. I don't really think there's a debate for it. I think the way he's played since he's come on this season, I think he's proved at point and sort of staked his claim for that position. Definitely until we perhaps sign somebody in January or the end of the season. But I think it's his spot now to lose, if you like. I don't think there's any sort of serious competition for it at the minute. I think how he uses Jacob Murphy, if we are maybe going to be sort of pen back defending for a lot of the game and we just need to get up the pitch, I think he's useful for that. But I definitely think for a game like this where we would, you know, hope to have a fair amount of the ball, I think it's definitely Harvey Barnes.
And is it a case of Miggy probably wouldn't because he's been away, but also has Miggy dropped down in the pecking order a bit now, Joe? Do you think he's not really there? So. He's probably third choice. Is that it's horrible to say, but is that the
third and a half almost? Because you've got Gordon, you got Barnes, you've got Murphy. It's hard to see where Miggy really. I mean, he does offer something. To be fair, I do like Miggy. He is a good player, and he's good to have on the bench, especially when you're in the dying minutes. I think it all depends on how this experiment with Barnes and Gordon works out, it really,
Yeah.
if Howe likes it and if Howe's happy, changing them about and, have them switch up and whatever, then great. If not, like you say, you've got Murphy there. And if not, but then Murphy offers almost the opposite of what Miggy does, in that Miggy is more of a cut inside, swinging in from his left foot, blah, blah, blah. Murphy is more of a traditional winger where he's just got pace and he just whips the ball in from the right. So I think it's really going to be down to the opponent. And hopefully, if we get far, touch wood, in the cups, then you're going to need players like Miggy, because he came on against Forest, and you'll come on against other teams, depending on how far we get in. So, yeah, good player, like him. Probably not going to be starting any Premier League games, so which is a bit of a shame. But we need to be moving on from these players, I think, in the starting 11 for sure. And I don't think many people would argue against that.
So what we're basically saying is I'm gonna take a phrase from Ian, who hasn't been on a match preview for a while, but we're glad we're not Eddie Howe and we haven't got that headache, and it's his make, and that's why he gets paid money and we're not Premier League coaches.
Absolutely.
It's time, Daryl. It is time. Get that chest puckered up and get your back straightened and sort out your posture. It's time for Ref Watch. Let us know who the man or woman is in the middle of the field and who's on the VAR this week. Take it away, mate.
Okay. So this game will see us refereed by Chris Kavanagh from Lancashire. I'm going to go through it slightly different order to what I normally do. So I'm going to give you stats first, and then I'm going to come to the games because, unfortunately, I might be a bit of a downer on this one. So last season he refereed 20 games, issuing 82 yellows and 4 reds, and he's had 2 games so far this season with 8 yellows and 1 red. So he refereed 4 Newcastle games in the Premier League last season. Sadly, they all have something in common. I'll give you the fixtures and maybe you can tell me what it was. So you've got Bournemouth away, Spurs away, Forest at home, and Man City at home. Can you tell me what links all 4 of those games?
We lost them all.
Someone
Exactly.
got sent off? Okay.
We lost them all, sadly. Yeah. Nichol was straight in there. We lost every single one.
Thinking, did Julian get a yellow card?
Yeah.
No,
Bruno?
Lost that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We lost every single
Lost a lot of games last
refereed.
season.
Yeah, lost every single one that he was refereeing. So this is the time.
I'm not. Hang on. Are we going to
We're
be?
gonna turn
Are we
that
now
format.
blaming the ref for our form last season? Is that what
Hey,
we're
it's
doing now?
it's just a
It was all
coincidence,
down
isn't it?
to
I'm
the
just
ref.
saying it's a coincidence.
I'll get the tinfoil.
Um,
We'll make the hats.
I know.
But I'm sure we'll turn it around. And VAR for this one is John Brooks.
There you go. Well,
Good old.
there's your referees. There's your officials. It's time for predictions. Joe, because he disappeared, and it's going to be a nightmare editing, so I'm going to have to leave it in. I'm coming to you first, mate.
Just give me a out there. I reckon we're going to do it. I think the defense is shoddy. I think we have had a bit of time to rest. Gordon, I think, is going to have a great game. I'm going to say we're going to win 3-1, and Gordon's going to get 2.
Wow. Okay then. Nichol, you seem to prepare yourself there, so you're going next.
Right. As we've said, a lot of draws in this fixture. But I am going to go with some goals. I am going to go for a draw though. I'm going to go 2-2. Plenty of action. I think Isaac will get on the score sheet and Howie Barnes.
Nice. Daryl, mate, what's your prediction?
Well, I'm going to add a 7th 1-1 to the list of 60 million. Well, however many millions of draws that we've had in this fixture. I just think that the Bournemouth game for me just shows that we're still a little bit rocky. And as much as we all hope and pray that this 2 weeks is doing us the world of good on the training pitch, it's still yet to be determined. We still have to base it off what we've seen so far. So I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw, and I fancy Isaac to get the goal.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to go for a draw because there's been too many, and I think that the lads we've got a lot of confidence from the Spurs result, even though the performance maybe wasn't there. They would have got a lot of confidence from that. The lads who've been away in international, especially Anthony Gordon, I think will be buzzing after him getting the 2 starts and also the performances he put in for England. And I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to Newcastle. And I'm actually going to go for Gordon to get 2 goals. because I think he's going to be, if he starts and plays. But yeah, I think it'll be Gordon. Yeah, sorry, Wolves fans, if you're watching, if you think it's going to be any different, but let us know in the comments below what you think your prediction will be for this one. Boys, does anybody want to add anything before we wrap this one up?
I will very quickly. The main man, the hidden man that we didn't mention earlier, who I sort of hinted at, was Callum Wilson. So we don't know if he'll be back. And that's because we're doing this because of Eddie Howe's presser. But fingers crossed, you know, we sort of expect him to be back around now, given if everything's gone well. So we'll wait and see what Eddie has to say on Friday.
And there was a picture of him sitting on some weights in the NUFC. Is it tuning training that they do on the website, the photo gallery? So maybe that's a hint. It isn't. It's not a hint. They're just taking photos of players. There he is.
Look at Joe's got it.
Sitting on the bench, which ironically is probably where he'll be on Sunday. But there you go. There you go. Yeah, you got to pick them up, not sit on them. That's how it works. But anyways, we're going to go so Nichol can put 50 pence in his meter. Get the light back on. But before we do, let me know in the comments below what you think your prediction is going to be. Let me know what you think of this this match preview. Sorry, I'm a bit delirious. I was flying at 2 o'clock this morning. What you think of this match preview, and if you're a Wolves fan, let us know what you think your strengths and weaknesses are going to be going into this game. While you're down there, filling all those lovely comments in and giving us all the feedback that we all love to read. Be kind.
Hate mail.
Hit the thumbs up button. That's all we ask. It's free to do so, and it gets this video in the feed of other Newcastle and Wolves fans. And if you want to go one step further, you can become a subscriber. Again, that's also free to do. You hit the little subscribe button and our videos will start to appear on your YouTube feed. And if you want to be notified when that happens, after you hit the subscribe button, there's a little bell. Hit the bell and you'll be notified on whatever device you've got on when new videos go live. And if you do want to go an even further step, we do have a membership program. It's $2.99 a month. That gets you early access to videos with quality just like this one. Because, I mean, come on, we can't be anything but professional, but as well as early access and exclusive access to other videos and podcasts. And you also get access to the Telegram group as well. And relax. Boys,
take a breath.
Thanks very much for joining me on your Wednesday night. Thanks everybody for watching. We will see you for the next one, which is it? It's not Milton Keynes. Milton Keynes. Wimbledon.
It's Fulham.
It's Milton Keynes. Giving them the pro.
Wimbledon's after Fulham, isn't it?
No, Wimbledon before
Fulham, and then
no, it's Wimbledon before Fulham. It's Wimbledon, then Fulham,
Oh.
and then City, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we'll see you for that one, or some of us will. I don't know. I might be asleep, but we'll see you there. Have a good one. See you later. Ta-ra.
See ya.
Ta-ra.